Hello, Dwayne Brummett here with Ali Alberigo, SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Ali, good morning and nice to be with you, sir.
Hey, good to be with you too. I am looking forward to our call today. I need some podcast therapy.
Podcast therapy? Everybody listens to podcasts, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like every Wednesday I talk about, I just met with all my friends and we normally have topics and stuff, but today we just vented and laughed and it felt good to kind of have like-minded people around me. And, we all complained a little bit about the craziness that goes on in our world of martial arts and so on. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah. So, and it's nice that you have that group of individuals that you can get together with every week and kind of bounce ideas off. And
and then I meet with you right afterwards. So I get 5 of my friends in a row that I get to hang out with, even though.
Well, and then during COVID, you weren't able to get together, but in person. But I know us, we were on the phone all the time together.
Yeah, and we still did our podcast throughout the whole entire thing and shared man, it was a lot of really good information. Like anytime we researched something and found out a system or something that worked for us, we shared it on the podcast. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty intense. I'm glad that we had each other to go back and forth with, but to share that with an industry that really had no direction. Like none of the real big companies, the powers that be stood up and really helped, other than maybe like a Maya or, they started sharing what protocols and things like that. But it was good that we were able to share that on our podcast.
Yeah. And I will say that I thought that Spark did a phenomenal, I think they stepped up and did a phenomenal job of helping all of their members deliver the information that needed to get delivered, especially via Zoom.
Yeah, and they were on it from day one on, connecting to Spark to remind people of their virtual classes and signing in. I mean, that was a big help to us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, today's topic is basically talking about, that we as entrepreneurs, because we're not just school owners, right? We're entrepreneurs. And if you don't see yourself as an entrepreneur, you're just a karate guy or karate gal. I would ask you to, start looking at yourself as an entrepreneur. But as an entrepreneur, we need to make sure that we're staying hungry and we're staying broke.
Yeah.
And so this concept is not mine. This is a concept that I picked up from Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
But it really spoke to me when I learned this. And I don't know about you, but we've talked about it in the past too. How many times have we gotten complacent? How many times have we got coasted? How many times did we reach a goal and we didn't use the black belt success system, right? Know what you want, have a plan and a success coach, take consistent action, and then review your progress and renew your goals. We just didn't renew our goals. We sat on our laurels and we just kind of, let life go by. And we weren't hungry and we didn't act like we were broke. So the concept is such that, you want to go to bed broke and you want to wake up every morning hungry.
Right.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. I listen to Grant all the time driving to and from my school, his podcast, and sometimes I shake my head and I'm like, man, I don't totally agree with some of the things he said, but I really love the guy. I think he's awesome. But this concept, I think you and I don't know, maybe you could let the listeners know, but is it like an inherent trait or is it something that you've developed the muscle?
Well, I lost you there, Ali. We'll see if you can pop back in. Let me message him and see if he even knows that he dropped out. Let's see. You dropped out. So hopefully we can get him back in. Aha, there he is. He's coming back in. Okay. All right, sir. Welcome back.
Wow, that's super weird. I don't know what happened, but so I was saying, I don't know if it's an inherent trait or something that maybe you or I or other entrepreneurs have built up over consistent practice to have that mindset. Because for example, I was just coaching with one of my clients. We were talking about goal setting and they're like, I don't believe in them. I think goals are a waste. And I'm like, but for me, everything I've ever set on paper, a goal that I've ever had, I've achieved. But he says, yeah, but I'm always working hard on a day-to-day basis to, just surpass and grow and do those things. And I had a very difficult time trying to explain why goals were so important. So back to the question, like, is this something that you've had in you, or is it something that you learned over years to keep that? Because it's hard for a school owner, right, Dwayne? I mean, like, we could take off when we want. We're lucky we set it up in a way where we could. Like tonight, I'm debating on whether I should stay home, and then I don't have to be back until after Easter, because I'm off on Thursday. Friday we're closed. Saturday we're closed. So I'm thinking of excuses in my head not to go in, but I don't have to be in. Like, it'll be run perfect without me there. Like, so what is that? Can you share that with people?
Well, I don't think that I was. I don't think that I was good at that. So I achieved things, and then I would, like I said, rest up my laurels, and then I would go, oh crap, I need to, work hard again in order to build it back up. And I guess maybe before I heard that phrase by Grant Cardone, the thing is that from the flywheel concept from the book Good to Great, with that flywheel concept. And Allie, if you're trying to get back on, you're going to have to probably not open up your Facebook page in order to get back on. So are you there, Allie?
Yes.
Hey, just don't open your Facebook page, probably. That's probably what it is.
I'm here.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
But I think I was introduced to this with Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, and the flywheel concept. And I think of it as the Price is Right wheel. But, it takes a lot of movement to, a lot of inertia to get that wheel going. And then, but once you get that wheel going, all you got to do is just hit it and be consistent over time, right?
Yeah.
In order to keep that wheel going. And so when I had learned that by, watching Jim Collins or listening to Jim Collins' Good to Great book, that made an impact on me. Is like, I've got to continue that wheel. But it wasn't until that phrase that Grant Cardone said, that you do have to go to bed broke every night, and you got to wake up every morning being hungry. Yes, you're really not broke. You still have money in the bank, but you've got to pretend like you're broke, and you got to hustle like that because you're hungry. So I didn't do a good job. I don't know that I've ever done a good job up until hopefully this point where, this year, particularly, that I'm continually waking up every morning and being hungry, because I'm going to bed with that broke mentality. What do I got to do tomorrow to feed myself?
Yeah.
To, feed the funnel, feed my family, feed my employees, feed my students, feed my clients, all those things.
Right.
And I think that has made a world of difference for me. And I am busier now than I've been in a long time. And then just as an off topic, with regards to what you said with your client that was saying, well, I don't believe in goals or whatever.
Right.
Maybe if you change the word goal to, okay, so what is your vision or your direction that you want to go?
Right.
Because I think the word goals have been overplayed and overused, and so sometimes I think we need a different term than goal in order to see if that speaks to the person. And you and I both know that it means the same thing, but sometimes if you clarify it or you change the verbiage to something different, people usually go, oh, and that's why, like, oh, that's new, or I didn't think of that. That's why you hear different trainers now really come up with their own terminology,
right,
and utilizing things. So like, I was just on a training last night with Coach Michael Burt, and he was talking about his blue marlins. He's got a list of his blue marlins. Well, I'm not a fisherman, so that doesn't speak to me, but he had to explain, that a blue marlin is something that you want to catch.
Right.
So to me, that term doesn't speak to me, but I understand what he's talking about. But so I guess maybe if you take that and utilize a different term and see if that term speaks to him or her, whoever you're coaching.
Right. So interestingly enough, like, I tried to explain it, and I didn't try. I put it out there and said, like, we have to always have something to strive for. right? And if we don't, we're like a ship. And I use this analogy, we're like a rowboat in the middle of the ocean with no sail, no engine, and no oar. And we're just constantly being turned around by the tides, pushed a little to the left, sometimes we could remain in the same spot for weeks by tides going in and ebb and flow back and forth. So I said that for us, I love the hungry part. I love the desire to keep on pushing, because once you get complacent, and by the way, this is a big problem with school owners, because we make our own rules. We do what we want. We could always make an excuse. And by the way, I call it adulting as well. Like,
maybe it's your internet. Maybe your internet is going out, because now you're frozen. There you go.
Okay. Did you
said
hear?
You call it adulting.
Yeah, I call it adulting, where, where you're old enough to make your own decisions. So there's no one going to push you to go to the gym, to lose weight. You want to eat the ice cream, you do, right? Like, there's no one to stop you. No one's going to slap you on the hand. And the same thing goes with running a business. If you don't do what you need to do today, which, I call it HVAs, high value areas that you're always working in all the time to push yourself forward. And that's where, and if you don't have, I know I've always had that desire. Like, I've been self-employed my whole life, to get up in the morning and work. And push and set goals, or, set a plan in action. And I've always done that, or else I would be broke right now, and if I didn't have that, I don't know what it is, the stubbornness to be able to push forward like that kind of thing. So I think that that's important for people right now, that they become a little complacent and lazy, to understand that you need to push every day.
Yeah, and so that's where, like, I brought up the Black Belt success system. Not only know what you want, have a plan and a success coach, take consistent action, review your progress, but then renew your goals. Know what so once you reach your initial goal or vision or whatever it is, you should have something else in mind that you are now shooting for, or one or two things, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But they have to be things that are going to move your business forward. And I think if you wake up in the morning and go, okay, what's like you said, your high value activity? What is the most important activity that I got to do today that's going to bring me to that vision,
right, or
to that goal, the quickest? And then that's the one that you need to work on that day. And then, yes, I get it. There are 100 other things that we've got to do every single day, that are more activity based. Right. Not necessarily goal-based. Yes, we need to do them in order to keep our businesses afloat. Yeah. But even if we didn't do them that day, our business isn't going to sink.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'd say so. Yes, I agree with you. We got to decide what our high-value activity is that day, because we can make ourselves super, super busy doing activities that either one, we shouldn't be doing at all, or two, yes, they are necessary, but they're not the most important activities that are going to get us, closer to our vision.
Yeah, and you and I have done many calls on that. Like, what are our, key result areas? We did one on that recently. High value assets or areas. Those things. I think the biggest mistake, and by the way, I see this more and more with school owners that have been doing it for a really long time. They get tired. And I've been there. And then there was a period of time, maybe 5-6 years ago, where I was very burnt out. Like, I was really like, should I sell? I'll sell it all, Dwayne. I'll sell all my real estate. I'll sell my school, and I could retire forever and maybe just write stories or coaching or whatever. And then and this is my advice, because I do have another client or two that struggle with this. They've been doing it forever. They're frustrated, hard to teach. Kids don't listen. I had a conversation with a mom just yesterday. It was frustrating, but I like the family and the kid. But my son doesn't want to go to a tournament. He went to the last one. He wants to wait until he goes to the next one. He wants to be more prepared. And so I felt like Rocky in Rocky 1. I gave him my advice, and when we're all said and done, they said, yeah, well, we made up our, I should have asked, did you make up your mind yet? Because if they would have said, yeah, no matter what you're going to say to me is going to change my mind, I wouldn't have continued. But I went on, and I felt like Rocky when he tells the young girl, how to stay out of trouble and all this stuff. And when he's all done, he felt good about himself. And she goes, hey, Rocky. And he turns back proud. And she goes, screw you, Rocky. And then he's like, yeah, screw me. Like, who the heck am I, right, to give the advice? So I know that we tend to burn out. We tend to get tired of doing those things. And we mentally need a break, and need to take time to recharge, but never stop the drive.
Well, I would propose this is, sometimes the recharging is not pulling back. It's actually pressing forward.
Right.
And so, making the goal even bigger, or the vision even bigger, or a different goal or vision that sparks you, that overrides it. It energizes you. So that rather than, because I don't believe in retirement. So rather than retiring, how about refiring, yourself? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, like refire, like recook, restart up, rather than refiring and getting rid of yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
What is that old saying, right? And we've heard it all. Everyone's heard it all. Like, if you do something you love, you never have to work a day in your life. Well, that's a bunch of crap, right? Because we're always working, and you're going to get tired, and you're going to have frustrations. But I agree with you. Like, if you can reinvent yourself, like you kind of did a portion of a reinvention where you started the health coaching and built it into a viable business, and you really enjoy it. Like we were just chatting before we went on the air. It's like the part of the martial arts that we like, when we can be the Mr. Miyagi, where someone asks our advice and actually takes it and they listen to it. Like, not like I had the conversation with the parent and I'm giving them all the things they should do, and at the end they're like, I know, but we're gonna skip it. Like, so I basically is like, okay, like, what else can I say? As long as you're happy and you're gonna continue training, do whatever you want. Like, they don't want to hear sage advice from someone who's been through it all, right? So
yeah, so I teach the white belts on Tuesday and Thursday evenings.
Right.
It keeps my foot in the door. I like to teach them. That's the only class that I teach all week. It's just those two classes, Tuesday, Thursday, for 45 minutes, actually 40 minutes. By the time the warm-up's done and I teach about 35 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because there's a mat chat at the end, there's a warm-up at the beginning, so I'm 35 minutes. Mm-hmm. And even last night, I had 2 new people that started. One that this was their second or third day, and I got the ones that have been there for 4 weeks, 5 weeks already, and I said, all right, review this. We're going to practice this. I'll be over to watch it in a minute. And then I went to the other 3, and I'm showing them how to do these things. And then I walk away, and then I come back, and one of them's talking to the other one, and I just looked at him. I go, "You got his number?" No. I go, well, get it after class, because this is not the time to be talking.
Right.
And then I looked at all 3 of them. I said, look, guys, if you're not, I said, let me ask you a question. Why do you think I showed you what needed to be done and how to do it, and then walked away? Why didn't you think I just stood there to watch and see if you were going to practice it?
Right.
And what the one that was, doing the talking, he said, well, you want to see if we're going to do it. I said, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I said, because if you guys aren't willing to do the work, I said, I'm not going to be able to teach you. And if I can't teach you, you can't be a student here. So if you're willing to do the work, I'll teach you. But if you're not willing to do the work, I won't teach you. And then I walked away, and they started working. And then, of course, when I came back, I said, man, I love it. You guys are working hard. Let me show you the next thing. And so, I created that expectation. But in just quickly before the mat chat started last night, I had all my white belts sitting around, before Mr. Bean had everybody else in. And I just said, hey guys, look, what's the biggest compliment you can give your instructor? And the other ones have already heard it, and they go, ooh. I said, what is it? They go, practice. I said, yes, that's the biggest compliment you can give your instructor, is you go home and you practice, you know your material. I said, now, everything that we went over tonight, you come back next class, I can see that you've learned it. You're not going to master it yet, but you've learned it. Like, you know it a lot better. I said, then I'll add more on. I said, but if you didn't, if you did not practice, and I'll be able to tell if you didn't practice, I'm going to put you over in a corner, and you're just going to work on that the whole class until you know it.
Yeah.
And then I just said, look, I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink it.
Right.
And if y'all don't know what I mean by that, go talk to your parents.
Yeah.
I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink it. And so, and the parents heard me say it anyways, but the reason I bring that up is because it is frustrating to try to get someone to drink.
Right.
I realized a long time ago, I can't get my students to drink. I can't get my instructors to drink. I can't get my health clients to drink. I can lead them, and then now it's up to them. I can help motivate and inspire, but it's totally up to them. And if
Yeah.
they decide not to do it, like I just had a lady that I kept on because she was interested about program, getting healthy. Got her on board. She's done 2 weeks. She just messaged me yesterday saying, you know, oh, my life was so busy, and that was her excuse in the beginning. Which this is so convenient.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to continue with the program right now. Yada yada yada. I just messaged her back and I said, well, we talked about that in the beginning. That's how convenient it was, and you agreed that it was quite convenient. So I don't know, you know, how much more busy your life has gotten, but it must have gotten a lot more busier since the last time, you know, we've chatted about that. So just let me know. Just let me know if you ever want to get back on program again. And then I sent her a handwritten card and send it off. But I am not going to try to talk her into it. I'm going to go find somebody else that already wants to do it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, dude. And by the way, now let's just take that and the martial arts, and then we put it into the running of the business. You know, it can, you know, excuses are a dime a dozen. You could always find a reason why something won't work. You know, like it's, when I forget what I think President Biden or somebody said, if you don't like the gas prices, buy an electric car. And everybody was up in arms. Like, well, how come if we could afford an electric car, we wouldn't have to worry about gas prices, and then, but, I look at it like there's so many benefits to everything you choose. But if you always look at the downside, you're always going to find an excuse of why. And I think it's human nature to justify not doing what you should be doing. Like, hey, I can't do that. I don't have the time. I can't find time to train, or I'm too busy right now. And like, I just had 2 of my students, they live in Florida, and they sent me a message like, oh, we haven't been able to make it to class that much, so we wanted to put our membership on hold. And I said, isn't it better to just train whenever you can rather than not train at all? You just got back into it. You just got your white belt. You're moving on down the road. Why quit now? Because I always say breaks equal quits, right? There's no breaks are always going to equal a quit. I'm going to take a break and they go back to eating. I'm going to take a break. They stop training. So anyway, long story short, I think it's important for people to realize, like, as an owner, stop making excuses. That's why it's good to have a mentor, a coach that you pay, because they'll stay on top of you. They're going to check you every week, make sure you do what you're supposed to do, even if in your mind you can justify the reasons that you shouldn't, or the reasons why it won't work, or the reasons why in your area, like, right, we've heard it all before, I'm too like, I don't get the concept of health coaching. I'm too busy to eat correctly. Like, I don't get it. Like I don't understand. Like, how is that? How can you ever be too busy to diet and because you're not even a program that has to exercise. You don't even have to get to the gym. You just got to change your habits and learn psychologically how to change your mindset about eating, right?
Yeah, because it's not just about getting your body healthy, although we do that. It's also about getting your mind healthy as well, because that's where the battle is going to be won. Losing the weight's going to be easy. Maintaining that weight loss, that's where the game is won, and that's where the mind has to come into play. But this kind of reminds me of Dan Sullivan and what he has talked about with regards to procrastination. Mm-hmm. And he goes, if there's something that is, he goes, I have a flip on procrastination. He goes, and I'm paraphrasing what he talked about, but he said, if there's something that you're procrastinating on, that's actually the number one thing that you should probably get done. Yeah, that is actually like the radar going. Boop, 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 boop. That's the one you need to be getting done. The thing that you're considering the most.
Right. The thing that you like the least is what you're going to, the thing that you're not as comfortable with, you're going to avoid more. Like I always said, that procrastination, there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, in my opinion, you should master it. But what you should master it so well that you learn to procrastinate on procrastination.
Yes. Yeah, and by doing that, again, if you're writing things down that you need to be getting done, and you see that on there, and every time you look at it, it kind of makes you feel like, oh, I don't want to do that. Yeah. That is the number one thing that you need to get done. That's probably the one bottleneck or constraint that is in your business currently that'll help push your business forward. Because really, as we as entrepreneurs, aren't we? I mean, we're problem solvers, and when we solve a problem, what does that mean? Well, then we have opened up the constraint in some areas, so now we can move forward, farther forward. And but when we move farther forward, there's going to be another constraint that we have to tackle. and then we have to learn how to deal with or manage or overcome or remove or whatever, go through whatever it is. So we're just moving from one constraint to the next, from one obstacle to the next, one fear to the next, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I got a lady who's only 1 month on program. Sorry to keep bringing around to health coaching, but this is so amazing. 1 month on program. She's already lost 25 pounds in her first month. She's aching less. She's sleeping better. The last week, she goes, I've cried more this last week than I've cried in years. And she goes, I can't figure it out. I couldn't figure out why until I finally finally was introspective and goes, oh my gosh, I actually have more confidence. And that's why she was crying, is, losing the 25 pounds made her feel so much better about herself.
Right.
And this is a lady who's probably close to 300 pounds.
Wow.
Well, I asked her, I said, would you be willing to give me your before picture and give me your current picture right now, and then write a little thing about it.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared.
Right.
And I said, remember when we talked about in the beginning that you wanted to start a program, but you were scared? Mm-hmm. And then I talked with you about that, really the breakthrough, the next level for you is stepping into that fear,
right,
so that you can move through it.
Right.
And I said, you trusted me. In fact, you took my confidence, because I asked you, I said, I know you're not confident right now. Just borrow mine. Right. I said, don't you have a little bit more confidence now, you said? And she goes, yeah. I said, so let's be a little vulnerable.
Right.
Let's put your story on Facebook. And I don't even know where my phone is. She just did. So I helped her craft it. Right.
Right.
And so let's see. I'm going to look it up here and tell you how many people have already started to encourage her and engage with her. So right now, she just did it only 3 hours ago. So she has 40 comments already, and she has 55 people that have liked or loved it.
Wow. Amazing, right?
What does that do for your confidence level, right? Yeah. So, look, and I bring that up because even us as school owners, as entrepreneurs, even if you've done it for 10, 20, 30 years, there should be the next fear that we've got to face in order to go through to become better at what we do, no matter what it is. And if that means that we need to be vulnerable and say to somebody, look, because I learned this from Melody Schumann, because this was golden from her. But, she always put it back on her. If there was a kid that was rowdy, he was rambunctious, he was, they couldn't handle him.
Right.
Or had an attitude problem. She never put it on the kid. She just always, would tell the parent, hey, look, unfortunately, we're just not equipped to be able to handle this type of situation. I'm sorry that we're not able to, but, as of right now, we just can't have your child in our program. Now, let's set up maybe a time to come back in a half a year, and we can try it again.
Right. Right.
I thought that was beautiful, because you're putting it all on yourself. But how vulnerable is that? That's kind of the way I'm bringing that up.
And I used that actually about a year ago with a kid who was just, no matter what we did, and it was torture as they walked through the door. You know how you're like excited to teach, and that kid walked through the door and you knew yet your class was going to be hell because they were always in trouble, always making a stir. So it's amazing.
We got one of those Monday night. Mr. Bean had to pick him up off the floor and bring him over to our program director. That was his first night. His mom didn't bring him. Some guardian or somebody brought him, but they didn't stay. He's there alone. We put that slat wall up where we had talked about, because of the remodeling that we did.
Oh, good.
And we have one of those padded weapons that were there. He took it off the wall and started hitting my program director.
Unbelievable, right? It's amazing.
So my program director had to call and ask for them to come pick him up because they weren't there. And then called the mom the next day, and then had to explain, look, you have to be here,
right,
in order for him to be in class. And if you can't be here, then, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to do this. So we'll see tonight what happens. But we're prepared to say that exact same phrase.
Yeah.
But I bring that all up under this whole concept is that we can't be, we can't be complacent. Right. We have to move forward through fear. Again, going to bed every night, like, pretending like we're broke, and waking up every morning hungry. How am I going to feed myself? How am I going to feed my my employees, my family. I mean, the
Right.
whole shebang.
Yeah. And, one other thing I'd like to point out to school owners that are on our podcast all the time. So there are going to be things that you hate doing. Like, I'll give you an example. I could do it. I'm great at it, but I don't like doing it. And that's making phone calls, right? I used to do it all the time, and I did it with my landscape business. I've always done it with my dojo, but I ignore them. I'd rather text, I'd rather send emails, but I know that a certain portion of the people, if I called them, they would make an appointment. They would come in. They would feel more connected than just a word on a written page or an email. So I don't love doing the call. So I hired the other day, and she starts on Monday after the holiday, a virtual assistant, and you would be shocked at how many people out there that are looking to do something part-time from their home, when their kids are asleep or when their kids are with their dad or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to get that done. And by the way, not only am I going to get it done for the people who signed up for a trial that never scheduled, I'm going to make sure they call the people that signed up for the trial and scheduled but never showed up. Then I'm going to get it for the ones that showed up once or twice but didn't continue with their free month. And then I'm going to get it also for special event calls. My next summer camp, my Nerf Wars, my this, my that. And I'm going to have them making those calls. And the person and here, check this out. I posted it on Facebook. I got like 12 people who are interested. I had them in personal message me. Out of the 12, maybe 8 of them messaged me. And then I set up a sign up where they had to sign in online to do a Zoom call with me. So out of those people, only 6 people set up a Zoom call. And out of the 6, only 3 showed. Like, it's amazing how people, like, they want something and it sounds good, and then they fall short somewhere along the line, and you wonder why they're not successful in their life or they're struggling in their life. And this happens with school owners as well, where I go, hey, you should do this. Well, I can't do that. I hate that. I don't want to do this, or whatever the case may be. We make excuses. Then don't do it. Find someone to do it for you, right? Like, if you really hate phone calls, don't do it, but don't ignore it. It's a vital part of our business. If you don't like numbers and you don't want to do it, hire a virtual assistant. Like, you have someone, right, that does all your accounting, and you send them the receipts and they put it all in order, and they, right?
Yeah, I don't even send them receipts anymore because I use either my debit or credit card, and so that really is my receipt. So I don't even have to send them receipts anymore.
That's awesome. So, like, things that you could do that would, and by the way, virtual people, they're not, I'm paying her $15 an hour, which is minimum wage in New York State. And she's going to do it for like 3 to 5 hours a week to start. Let's see how it goes. So that's going to make about $100 a week, but from the convenience of her own home, never leaving and just killing a few hours. It's like, that's great for them.
Yeah.
Right? So like,
yeah. And are you 1099ing her, or are you?
I'm going to do it on payroll. Okay. I asked, she was okay with that. She actually, I prefer, and she preferred not to 1099 it because it'll be taken out of her taxes. She won't have to worry at the end of the year figuring it all out. But yeah, so that I'm looking to solve an issue. I'm looking to find the things that I like the least. Like, I'm not a fan of cleaning toilets and, that kind of thing. I don't mind sweeping and dusting and all that. So one of the people who work with me, they do it for me. Like, I'm not going to not clean, because I hate it, although some people may do that. So I suggest for all the business owners that are listening, write down all the things that you hate doing that that are necessary, and then try to find a way to get them done somewhere, somehow, outside help or virtual, whatever, and try to make it work for you. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and you need to delegate everything but your genius.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Delegate everything but your genius. My genius is I'm not better than, my genius is not scrubbing the toilet.
Right.
I've got this on my wall here, and it says, what's the ultimate qualification of success?
Right.
For me, it's not how much time I spend doing what I love. It's how little time I spend doing what I hate.
Yeah. And that's exactly it, man. Right. And you know what? In my old book that I wrote, called The 5 Gateways to Happiness, we talked about the I hate list and the I love list. So do that with your school. And by the way, back to goal setting, I also had a thing that I sent out called the Mabaroshi, which in Japanese, Mabaroshi is like a vision quest of some sort.
Sure.
So like setting short-term goals, maybe in the first 6 months to 1 year goals to like 2 year goals to like 3 and 5. And I don't think people enough set their sights on the future. So they get a job and they just work until they eventually retire, right? Like when I retire, and then maybe they start thinking about it, but sometimes unfortunately they die, or they don't have enough money put away to like my poor dad never had enough money to do anything. He never went I took him on vacation a few times and things like that because he never saved and never really had a good business sense. So, I mean, you have to look at that in the future. Like, where do you want to be in 5 years? What would you like to be doing, et cetera, et cetera.
And I think what might help with that is, I don't know if you've heard of Dan. Well, yeah, you have. I don't know if the listeners all have heard of Dan Sullivan, but there's a book that he wrote. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like 156. Like that's his crap out age.
Okay.
That's when he's going to die. So he decided he's going to die at 156 years of age.
Okay.
And when he had done that exercise and came up, and he's got a reason why it's 156 and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna not do it justice. You all need to get the book. Like if you type in Dan Sullivan, like 156, it should come up.
Okay.
But anyhow, and I did a Facebook Live yesterday on this too, because I kind of said, what's your exit date? Is the Facebook Live, because I actually used this with a client this week, and so right. Dan Sullivan talks about, he asks these entrepreneurs, when do you think you're going to die? And the average came out to be 85. And then so he asked why? Like, why do you think you're going to die at 85? Well, because my dad lived this long, my mom lived this long, my grandma and grandpa only lived this long, yada yada yada. So I think 85. And he said, okay. So then he asked the question, at age 84, and don't worry, I'm going to tie this into the concept that we're talking about today about being, maintaining, being broke and being hungry. But he said, well, at age 84, let's look at 84. How's your health? Oh, my health is fine. How's your mobility? Yeah, I'm very mobile. I can get around. Yada, yada. How's your mental state? Oh, I'm sharp as a tack. Okay.
Right.
So then he asked the question. He goes, so what changes a year later?
Right.
And they're like, I don't know. He said, well, if nothing changed, how many more years do you think you'd have? And I forget what they like the average that everybody said, but let's just say they said 10 more years, right? So now we're at 95. He said, so based upon this conversation, I just extended your life 10 years. And they're like, yeah. Well, the reason this whole exercise is so important is because one, your mental state with regards to, when you think you're going to die, you can't prove it that you're going to die when you think you're going to die. Right. But you can prove the fact that you can do a lot more things with a better outlook than you can do with a worse outlook, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so he goes, now that you have 10 more years in your life, what does that do for you now at the age that you're at? What are the things that you need to make sure that you get dialed in with your health and wellness, with your fitness, with, your business, your relationships, all those things? What do you got to get dialed in order to make sure that, you can make it and that you will make it to that 95?
Right.
And I thought that was such a neat concept, because what that does is it allows us, I think, to, decide, okay, I'm going to go home and I'm going to go to bed broke and I'm going to wake up hungry every day. And when I go to bed broke, and I know I'm taking two people and marrying their concepts together, but when I go to bed as if I'm broke and I wake up as if I'm hungry every single day, I'm going to have that fire that I need and go, okay, yeah, these are my priorities. My health is a priority. My exercise is a priority. My relationships are a priority. Obviously, my business or businesses are a priority. I need to be able to manage those. But now that I have 10 more years, I actually have more time,
right,
to manage those things. Not push them off, but now I have more time to manage those things, which lowers your stress level when you go, okay, yeah, I got until I'm 95 to get everything together. And you kind of see where I'm going with that?
I do. And it's interesting though. I think that I look at that slightly different, but very much similar in many ways. But I think to me, we also don't take enough time to recognize our successes and enjoy the things that we have. So, I've always heard those stories where the dad, doesn't see his kids, and the kids are like, I never see you. And then the dad's like, but I'm working every day and night so that I could give you the things that you want. Meanwhile, the kid just wants time, right? Or the wife, she's neglected, or the husband's neglected because the spouse isn't taking the time to really enjoy the time, right? And or that, we work hard to have all these things, and we have all these things. But I remember I had a Dodge Viper SRT 10. I loved the car. I never drove it. When I sold it, it had like 6,800 miles on the thing. Like I take it out. Sometimes I take it out by myself just to drive it top down, driving around town. But I mean, I had it, I wanted it, I dreamed about that car forever. When I got it, I barely drove it. What is it in our lives? It's sometimes even with our dojos. Everyone always says, I've never really heard a martial artist that says, I hate this business, I hate the students, I hate teaching, I hate karate or whatever. They always say, I love teaching, I love being with my students, I love that aspect of it. Well, then you need to start focusing on enjoying it more. If you're frustrated with the silly things, come up with a solution to get rid of the silly things, or hire an assistant to deal with the people that are giving you a headache. But enjoy what you do, and that's going to fuel you to want to wake up hungry every day, because you have energy to go and do what you love, right? Because you love it. But if we're exhausted and frustrated, that takes the love away.
Yes,
it did for me. It almost took me out of the business.
Yep. Yeah, and then like that Zoom call I did last night with Coach Burt, he one of his things is when he wakes up every morning, he's just like, all I do is Lord, who do I need to reach out to today? Who needs me?
Right.
And he just sits there. A name will come to mind, writes them down. It could be 2-3 people that day. It could be 12 people that day. And then he either calls them, shoots them a message, does a video and sends it to them. And I just thought that was really powerful, because how often do we go, man, it's been a long time since I've reached out to so-and-so.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. I agree.
So, by setting yourself up with some of those daily routines, even if you don't have a vision of what the heck you're supposed to be doing today, at least that gives you like a starting block to do that. But I will tell you, without a vision, and I'm not an expert at this, because I'm still really trying to clarify my future.
Right.
But I do know that without a vision, I am just working and working and working and working. And am I achieving some things? Yes, but I don't even know what I'm achieving unless I have that vision to know where I want to go. So that goal of where I want to go. But without vision, I think oftentimes we perish. And
right.
So what I mean by that is we get complacent.
Right.
Without that vision.
Yeah.
We aren't able to push through things without that vision.
Mm-hmm.
There were individuals, there were school owners that closed because of COVID and never reopened again.
Yeah.
And I think I would be as bold to say that some of them, their vision wasn't strong enough, so therefore they were not hungry enough to find a way to make it work.
Well, it's funny though, that reminded me of so many conversations I had with school owners, right? And they were shutting down, right? They were done. And they talked to me, like their one ditch effort was to talk to me as a friend, not as a coach or anything like that. And they were like, a lot of them were they don't realize it, but similar to me, like they're self-defense based martial arts, hand-to-hand, grabbing, throwing, wrestling, grappling. And our good friend, Kenny Bigby, he turned that situation into gold, right? When it came to grappling, and
for the listeners, he's a Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu school, just FYI.
So, everyone was saying, hey, we do grappling. How are we going to do that on Zoom, right? And we do self-defense. How am I going to do that without a partner, unless there's a brother and 2 brothers that live together? And I'm like, you just teach the techniques. Like I have a girl who still trains on Zoom from Florida. The most innovative young lady, like she's been with me for years. And she literally has like a noodle with like a rubber glove on it. So when we do wrist lock, she blocks the noodle, grabs the rubber glove, and does the wrist lock. She has a like one of those dummies hanging from the wall where she's able to do uppercuts and grab it and set up the shoulder throw. Like, she found a way. And Kenny Bigby he has a video that had thousands and thousands of views called the BJJ Buddy, where he taught people how to make it, like a dummy out of, towels and sweatpants and a hoodie and made
pillows.
Yeah, and pillows, right? Yeah. So I mean, like, it depends. I think school owners sometimes think and it's not their fault. It's that they haven't trained in that aspect of being able to adapt and overcome. Right? When people run up against an obstacle,
are these adults?
Yeah, they are.
It is their fault.
Well, I know what you're saying. When I say I'm trying to be kind, but I know what you're saying, that it is their fault.
I'm not going to be.
But think about this though. Like, I always say, like, if an inner city kid lives in the ghetto, everything that they've been around has been ghetto, right? So that, even the limited mindset of breaking themselves out. So what they see, they can only rise to the top of what they're used to learning. So I think for a lot of school owners, as we know, they are not business owners. They teach martial arts, and they've done martial arts, and then they became a martial art instructor. And now they own a school because it's easy. You can own a school, you rent the building, and you put some mats in and you start teaching, right? But running a business.
They don't know one more of the school owner that's more successful than them that they couldn't call up.
They could, right? But I'm playing devil's advocate in defense of them, and I'm glad. You're good cop, bad cop, so I like it though. But will they? And do with the limited mindset, it's like you tell a kid from the ghetto that they could rise above and go out and get an education, and they'll say to you, but none of my family did. So they could look at successful people. And that's why it's important to have people like, Damon John, or, people that go into those areas and say, hey, listen, I did it. You could do it. And the school owners do that all the time for people. But these people with limited mindset, sometimes they put the brakes on because they're afraid, in a way, to try to do well, because they might fail and they might not be happy with failure. So there's a big psychological component. And that's why I love your topic this morning, because, like, how do we stay hungry? Like I asked you in the very beginning, I'll ask you again, like, how do you, like, what drives you? There's got to be a component. So tell me your mindset, like, what drives you daily when you get beaten up and tired and frustrated? Like, what gets you up every morning with that? Like, how did you develop that mindset?
Well, one is I didn't have it. You're right. I had to develop it. Part of it was getting beat up over time and getting just, fed up with those things. And those goes back to some of the like a podcast that we did with regards to creating rules for your school and following those rules.
Right.
And if you're not like me, if you're not willing to follow the rules that you've created, then you put somebody in charge of those rules and they're going to follow it. And Mr. Bean is a lot better at following the rules than I am, because I will bend them. Mm-hmm. So he's better at that. So, and knowing my role is, I'm more of a visionary, inspirational, inspiring, motivating type person, visionary, but I'm not a very good manager, like managing the day-to-day activities. And I'm not ADD, that's not it. But at least I haven't been diagnosed, and I don't think I am. But knowing what my strengths are and playing on those, and then trying to delegate those other things. So back to your question, I was not good with that. Right. That's still something that I work on, but now I know what I want for my school. Yeah. Before it was, hey, I want to build it as big as I possibly could. Yeah. Right. And then I realized, well, it's not about the number of students. It's actually about the net profit. Yeah. Right. Let me say that again. It's not the number of students. It's about the net profit. So then understanding that I needed to know the numbers, like what are the percentages that I should be at in order to run a successful martial arts school, in order to make the numbers that I want in net profit. So I had to go through that first. And then from there going, okay, now that we are at those percentages and reaching those, or reached those numbers, what's my next goal? Well, was to open up a second school with another individual. To do that, give him the freedom
Right.
of owning a business, part owning a business like me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the next exciting area for that. And then I have another one that wants to do it too. He's about 4 years off. Him and I had a meeting. We talked. I set some parameters with him. So that's the next one. So within 4 years, this other one will be up and running. Just like this one is. It'll have structure like this one does. We'll have enough time where we'll have black belts and yada yada yada. Storm team members, the whole deal.
Yeah.
Built-in instructors. Then we'll start working on that with him. With the new guy coming in, he's one of my one of my third degree black belts, but he hasn't finished high school yet. He'll finish that next year, and then he's going to go to 2 years of college, and then I want a play year of, look, I'm going to start putting you in charge of this school here so that I can see how you act, and how you operate before we go and open up another one. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. And
that whole thing is a vision.
Right. Yeah, and you're setting goals. I already heard that like 20 different things within your speech. The only thing that I suggest, and this is to school owners that are listening, is that not everyone is a owner. Not everyone can be a head instructor. Not everyone could be a business person. So you can take people and put them in the position to be the head instructor, another person to maybe be the manager and business person. So one thing that I've learned over in the past is to try to get someone and mold them into being everything like me, like you. It's very rare that you'll find someone that can be a good salesperson, can be a good business person, can be a good teacher, can be charismatic. Like they're far and few, so take the strengths of the people you have and put them in the positions that you need those strengths for.
And let me just quickly say this. The vision is then once we have 3, right?
Right.
I'm going to have Bean actually above all 3. And so he'll manage all 3 of those locations. So we'll have 3 different head instructors. He no longer will be a head instructor. He will be over them and manage all 3 locations.
Right.
He's going to manage the day-to-day activities that are happening. He's going to manage some of the, he'll be managing the students and what the instructors are doing with the students, the curriculum, the lesson plans, all those things.
Good.
I'm still going to manage the finances. I'm still going to manage the marketing. But I won't have the day-to-day stuff that he's doing. Does that kind of make sense?
It totally makes sense. And it's interesting. I was talking to my head guy who's like partner-ish, technically he's the one that's going to take over my school. So I said to him, I'd like to sit down with you and talk to you. I'm making my will. He's like, oh my God, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, I just want, God forbid, I'm on my way to work and I die. I don't want it to be left to my wife and my daughter to try to figure it out. So I wrote out this very detailed will, and my student, who's one of my youngest students that started in 1991 or 2, he is actually my attorney now. And we laid out the will. If this happens, this is who gets this, and this is what I want my daughter to do there. And it's almost like an estate plan. Sure. In a will form. So when I talked to him, bringing him up about this, I said, so if I don't know when I'm going to retire. He goes, I don't know why you would retire. You love what you're doing. You don't have to come in when you don't want to. You just come in when you want to. He says, and he's happy with the situation. I said, hey, if I could do that, and maybe Nicole and I buy an RV and we go away, or we rent one and go away for a month and a half. And then I come back and I'm back in the game, and he runs it and makes his money and, that kind of thing. So it's about finding your happiness. I think that the biggest problem in this day and age is we're so used to being sad and angry and frustrated. That's like the media beats us over the head every single day. We had a big shooting in the city just yesterday, of craziness that goes on. And that's all it's been on the news. Before that, the next big event was Will Smith slapping Chris Rock in the face. Now, that kind of thing. But it's crazy at how we can't even get positivity if we want to. Even on television shows, they replicate the negativity, because that's, if it's a doctor show, it's about COVID. If it's this, it's about, so we have to fight hard to really experience happiness. That's my biggest thing. And you could be happy working your butt off. I enjoy working from day to night. I'm not unhappy about it, but I want to make sure in my mind I'm cognizant of experiencing happiness, because who knows, you could be, on a plane and gone the next day. You could be in your car and gone the next day. So enjoy life a little bit more. I think that that's my message of the day too. But strive, like you said, to be better.
And just from my own personal belief and perspective with regards to scripture, even God said that I'm supposed to work 6 days and then I take 1 day of rest. And so, if he says it, then why shouldn't I be doing it?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I just think having that purpose of waking up every single morning and knowing what your vision is motivates you. And I agree with what you said to a certain degree. If you're doing what you love, you never work a day in your life. And you're right. That's crap to a certain degree, but it also has merit.
Right.
Along with it, because there's a bunch of joys that you had never had. Because when I was a meat cutter and then when I was the meat manager, I never woke up one day and said, oh, this is what I want to do.
Right.
All I did was I went to work at Kmart, and then they opened up a meat department, and then I fortunately was asked to go and help the guy that was running it, and in our town was one of the pilots for the Super Kmarts. And so I was asked to just go and help him. So I learned how to rap, it's not the music style, but, I learned how to rap, and then I learned how to, identify the cuts, because then I had to wrap it. And then I learned how to trim it. And then I learned how to cut it. And, so then I learned how to do everything, fast forwarding, right?
Yeah.
But I learned a little bit at a time, but I never, ever went into Kmart going, I'm going to learn how to be a meat cutter. But because I was there, because I capitalized on opportunities, because I was there, those things presented themselves. I remember I was the butcher shop boy in the brand new Super Kmart for like 1.5 years, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Because they had torn down the other building and they built a brand new one. They built a brand new one before they turned down the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we went over there, this guy who was running the meat department prior, his name was Herb, old guy, like 67 at the time.
Right.
Or 65 at the time, whatever it was. But anyways, he said, hey, look, he said this to me and this other kid. They don't want you. The manager didn't even want to bring you into the meat department.
Right.
But me, the human resource person, we fought for you. And so they put us out in the butcher shop. And he goes, I want you to show them that you deserved to have been hired as a meat cutter.
Right.
Well, I took that as a challenge. One, I also respected Herb tremendously, and he was kind of like a father figure to me. And, which is not hard because my dad died when he was 15. So, attaching myself to somebody that I cared about is pretty easy, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, yeah, I'm going to show them that I should have been back here. And then I also wanted to make Herb proud of me. Well, this other kid, he said the same thing, except this way. Yeah, I'm going to show them that they should have hired me. He became one of the worst workers.
Right.
Which allowed me to look like I was one of the best workers.
Right.
And I'm not saying I didn't work hard, but I did, but you put us together. So long story short, I'm a butcher shop boy making $10 an hour, right?
Yeah.
2 years later, or 2.5 years later into the place being open, the assistant meat manager got promoted and went to another brand new Super Kmart as the meat manager. So the assistant position was open. I looked at the qualifications. I showed them to Herb. Herb says to me, he goes, you should apply. And I go, Herb, I'm not even a meat cutter.
Yeah.
He goes, just apply anyways. So I took it on his merit. I applied. 3 of us applied. 2 of them were already journeyman meat cutters. Both of them had probably 10 years experience in meat cutting than I even did.
Right.
And I got the job at age 23.
That's great.
I went from $10 an hour to $19 an hour overnight.
Wow.
And I say that because opportunity knocks when you're out getting stuff done.
Right.
Opportunity does not knock when you're not taking steps forward. And so even if you think I got this vision, I need to go in this direction, I'm hungry, I'm working. And as you're working there, you do need to be cognizant of the direction that you're going, because another opportunity might open up for you,
Right.
that could be even better than the opportunity that you're doing right now. I would have never thought that I would have added health coaching into my business.
Right.
But it's been the perfect opportunity
Yeah.
for me. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but compared to running a martial arts school, it's easy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I hear
So
you. I definitely do.
we all need to make sure, check ourselves. Don't be complacent. Go to bed as if you're broke, and then wake up every morning like you are hungry, and
Right.
and have that vision of what you need to go after, because you're hungry to go and get it.
Yeah. I agree. I love it. That was a great story, by the way. I think that's amazing. And I love, just the fact that hard work, where rubber meets the road, and what that ended up doing for you. I think school owners should take that story and say, okay, if I work now super hard, my life will be easy later on, or easier, if I put the right people in place, train the right people, put the right systems in place. Don't make excuses. Do what I got to do. Sometimes suck it up, and get it done. And that's it. And work. You're going to eventually be able to live that life. A lot of people say to me that I'm lucky, and none of it ever had to do with luck. It always had to do with hard work and determination. I always say stubbornness, because I was, I would never quit. I always took any type of challenge as any type of obstacle as a challenge, and boom, like I'd always overcome it. Like, so that to me, so somebody just wrote recently on Facebook, like, what are some of the things that you have, or obstacles, or what it was, or bad things that happened? I go, I don't look at anything as a bad thing. It was just a lesson. And I worked hard to overcome it. And then I succeeded. That's the way everything's been in my life, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't always, just fun, but at the same time, I was able to do it.
Yeah, and I can see where somebody calls it luck, but
Right.
and it is. Sometimes there is lucky opportunities, but that's only because you're putting yourself out there to come across those opportunities. Had
Right.
you not been doing what you were doing, those opportunities would not have presented themselves to you.
Right.
So yeah, it's lucky that it happened, but it only happened because you were there doing the work.
Right. Exactly. All right, cool. We're over time already. So that was an amazing call. It went so darn quick.
Yeah, it did.
By the way, I wanted to mention, for our second year in a row, we got our sponsors, which is Academy Kings. I posted it on our Facebook page at Academy Kings. They have a free giveaway for a different program on how to run your school. So if you want to check that out, the link is up on our Facebook page.
Can you put that in this thread as well?
Yeah, I will. I'll find it right now and I'll put it in, and then we will take it from there. But yeah, I think that that's exciting that they're helping us and growing and working with us and so on. So super exciting to have these sponsors help us pay for our software and, a little bit of our time, which really we don't make money at it, but it's just good to cover our expenses.
Yeah, it really does just cover the expenses, because we've got a hosting plan for, obviously the podcast, and then obviously this platform costs us a little bit too. So it really just it's cost neutral, really, is what it is.
Yep, absolutely. But thank you.
All right, Ali, have a good one, sir.
Dwayne, you have a great day. Great talking to you. I'll see you soon.
All right, bye-bye, sir.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out Elite Insights for all your website needs. LeadHunterMedia.com, your online digital marketer and content provider. Academy Kings BJJ Growth Consulting and Management Group at GrowMyAcademy.com. SparkMembership.com, hands down the best martial arts software for school owner management on the planet. GetKarateStudents.com, a martial arts growth consulting company for all your systems. AddHealthCoaching.com, helping school owners create a whole nother revenue stream for their school.